Have you ever wondered why, despite all your effort, you still carry pains that seem to have no end? Have you ever felt like you're living out a script written by someone you don't even recognize? Have you looked at your life and had the clear feeling that you're reacting, not to the present, but to old ghosts, voices from the past, fears that were not born today? The truth is, all of us, without exception, carry within us the child we once were. And that child, wounded, silenced, forgotten, continues to ask for help in silence. It begs to be seen, understood, embraced. Above all, it begs to be freed. But to free it, we must first go back to the place of pain, back to the buried memories, back, yes, to the past, that land so many try to avoid, yet paradoxically, where the key to healing lives. Because the past is not a place we should live in, but it is a place we must always set foot in, with courage, with truth, with love. Chronological time may say you have grown, your body has changed, your voice matured, your face bears the marks of time. But within you, there is a time that never passed. A part of you stayed back there, waiting for something that never came. A gesture, a listening ear, a hug, a word that said, "You are not alone." Psychoanalysis shows us that childhood doesn't stay in the past. It internalizes. It shapes the way we love, react, and run away. It is the root of unconscious repetitions. All the things we insist on calling bad luck, fate, karma, often it's just the wounded child trying to relive the same story, hoping this time for a different ending. But the ending doesn't change if the protagonist keeps ignoring their own story. Trauma doesn't always scream. Often, it whispers through behaviors, through emotional addictions, through toxic relationships, through disproportionate fears, through impossible demands. It's the adult who can't trust, who feels guilty for resting, who seeks approval as if their life depended on it, who fears abandonment but also fears intimacy. This adult is trying to protect the child who once learned that love was conditional, who had to be strong too soon, who had to swallow their tears, hide their pain, and carry weights that were never theirs to bear. But no human being was born to be strong all the time. The rock also breaks, the body gets sick, the soul screams, even when the mouth stays silent. And tears are free, because crying is not weakness. It's the first sign that something in you is awakening. The inner child doesn't want to be judged. It wants to be recognized. You don't have to be a therapist to hear that voice. You just need presence, listening, tenderness. Sit in silence and ask yourself, what still hurts? What did I need to hear back then but never did? What am I still searching for in others that is actually a request from me to me? This inner dialogue is the beginning of repair. When you approach your wounded child with love, you begin to dismantle the silent pacts it made with pain. Pacts like, I will only be loved if I disappear. I will only be accepted if I am perfect. I must control everything so I'm never hurt again. But life doesn't have to be survival. Life can be choice. It can be freedom. It can be a fresh start. You don't have to have all the answers. You don't have to be whole all the time. You don't have to carry the world to prove you deserve love. The imperfect is also beautiful. The crack also tells a story. The flaw is also human. And life is made, above all, of attempts. Psychoanalysis does not seek to turn you into a rational machine. It invites you to look within and recognize that even chaos has meaning, that even mistakes have value, that even the fall can be fertile ground to bloom. You can be vulnerable. You can allow yourself to feel. You can finally say, "Today, I choose to be my own shelter." Maybe you've been everyone's rock, the one who endures, who fixes, who holds it all together. But even rocks break. And when they break, they reveal what was hidden, the pain that never had a name, the exhaustion that became normal, the longing to be cared for after a lifetime of caring for everyone else. You may have been trained never to fall apart, but the truth is, sometimes falling apart is the only way to rebuild. There is no shame in falling. The shame is in standing tall in a life that no longer sustains you. Sometimes liberation begins with a simple phrase, "I can't do this anymore," and that's okay. Not everything you carry was born with you. Some pains are inherited. Some silences were taught. Some beliefs were handed down as if they were absolute truths, when in reality, they were just emotional defenses from those who had also been wounded. Many of us are repeating destinies we did not choose, living stories that began in other mouths, reacting to situations with an intensity that doesn't seem ours, because in truth, it isn't. These are generational traumas, the emotional wounds that travel through time, the voices that echo within us even after so many generations. And if you feel trapped in patterns you can't seem to break, maybe you're not just carrying your own pain, but the pain of an entire bloodline. Unacknowledged pain becomes behavior. It becomes absence. It becomes anger. It becomes coldness. It becomes control. It becomes a desperate attempt to keep life in some kind of order. Many parents, grandparents, and caregivers, they weren't cold out of cruelty, but out of survival. They too were unseen. They too were taught to swallow their tears. They too learned that feeling was a risk. And what is not processed gets passed on, without words, without intention, but with force. This is how trauma becomes inheritance. And our challenge now is to break the cycle, without guilt, without judgment, with awareness and compassion. Because someone has to be the turning point. And that someone could be you. When you choose to look inward, you are not being selfish. You are being revolutionary. You are saying enough of repeating, enough of passing on what is not mine, enough of hiding wounds under the rug of productivity. You are saying you want more. More truth, more lightness, more love that doesn't hurt, more presence that doesn't suffocate, more freedom to be and not just to appear. Healing is not just a gift to yourself, it's a gift to those who came before and to those who will come after. It's a way of saying, I saw the pain, I felt the weight, but I choose not to pass it on. That is courage. That is legacy. You don't need someone to fix your life. You need someone to hear your story without rushing, without judgment, without ready-made formulas. Someone who says, I'm here. Your pain makes sense. Your story matters. Listening is therapeutic because it holds space for what life tried to silence. It returns humanity to our experiences. It allows the wounded child inside us to finally say, I exist. I am no longer alone. And if you never had someone listen to you like that, know that you can now be that person for yourself. You can begin this process with a professional, with writing, with the sacred silence of your own presence. It doesn't matter how. What matters is not silencing anymore what is crying out for care. Maybe you have failed. Maybe you have lost something that felt essential. Maybe you have felt destroyed inside. But that does not make you a failure. It makes you human. Starting over is one of the most courageous acts there is, because it's born from the recognition that something is wrong and from the willingness to change. It is a gesture of humility, but also of strength. Don't wait for everything to be perfect to begin again. Begin again with fear, with exhaustion, with doubts. Because what matters is not how ready you are, but how willing you are. And sometimes a new beginning is nothing more than a deeper breath, a no spoken with firmness, a yes whispered with hope, a small but real choice to keep going. When we decide to step into the past with loving eyes, something changes. The barren ground, once marked by pain, begins to sprout new possibilities. Yes, the past carries pain, but it also carries clues, fragments of our essence, memories of who we were before we were shaped by suffering. And when we walk upon that ground, barefoot and soul open, we realize we no longer need to run away. We can plant there the seed of the new, of the conscious, of the true. Because the past only becomes a prison when we try to erase it. But when we look at it with courage, it becomes a path. And every path can lead us back home, to the home we have always been. There is a silent wisdom in accepting that we will not achieve everything. We will not have all the answers. We will not please everyone. We will not be perfect, and that is not a curse. It is freedom. The culture of performance taught us that to fail is to fail as a human being. But the human psyche is not a company. The soul is not a productivity project. The heart does not understand metrics. And if you try to control everything, what remains is exhaustion, because life doesn't fit into an emotional spreadsheet. It beats, it messes, it surprises. You will love those who could not love you back. You will be loved by those you could not see. You will lose yourself and then find yourself where you never thought to look. This is living. This is growing. And in the language of the soul, growing is not about getting it right. It's about awareness. Emotional maturity is not about stopping the act of feeling. On the contrary, it's about learning to feel with wisdom. It's letting the pain come, yes, but not as an eternal guest. It's knowing that there are days when sadness arrives without reason. And on those days, the greatest act of love you can give yourself is simply not demanding more of yourself. Let the tears happen. Let the silence speak. Let the body rest. You do not have to be strong every day. You do not have to carry the world when all you need is to carry yourself. Maturity teaches us that living is not about winning. It's about continuing, even with a broken heart. It's about starting over with the little that remains. It's about rebuilding with the shards of what once seemed impossible to break. There is a subtle beauty in unfinished things, in stories without a final period, in processes that still make no sense. We live obsessed with closure, with quick fixes, with instant healing formulas. But the soul has its own timing. It blooms slowly like century-old trees. It needs listening, not urgency. You may not be ready and still be on the path. You may still be bleeding, and that does not erase all you've healed. You may contradict yourself, and that does not make you fake. It makes you human. No one has life completely figured out. We just learn to breathe better between one pain and another. You have suffered, yes, and maybe it was unfair. Maybe it was brutal. Maybe it came too soon, too heavy, too lonely. But you survived. And surviving sometimes is already a form of winning. But don't stop there. Survival is the first step. The next is to turn suffering into wisdom. To take the pain and tell it, "You visited me, but you will not define me." It's not about romanticizing what hurt. It's about recognizing that behind every pain, there is a lesson still alive. And if you have the courage to look at it without masks, you'll see that the greatest wounds carry the greatest treasures. Because it was when you broke that you learned the value of being whole. It was in absence that you discovered the value of presence. It was in abandonment that you learned to hold yourself. At some point in life, you will have to choose to be what others expect of you, or to be who you truly are. And that choice, though it seems simple, may be one of the hardest, because it means losing approval. It means disappointing others. It means walking away from those who only knew your adapted version. But it also means freedom. Being yourself, with everything you are, with everything you feel, with everything still under construction, is a radical act of self-love. And once you taste that freedom, there is no going back. You realize you don't have to be perfect. You don't have to have all the certainties. You can make mistakes, change your mind, turn around. And above all, you realize you no longer have to carry the world on your back. You only need to carry the essentials: your truth, your integrity, your capacity to love and be loved. Don't wait for a big event to start again. A new beginning lives in the details. In a coffee sipped in silence, in a deep breath in the middle of chaos, in a no you had the courage to say, in a yes you offered yourself. Restarting is more about your inner stance than about changing everything outside. It's about repositioning yourself before life. It's about never abandoning yourself again. And yes, there will be hard days. There will be setbacks. There will be doubts. But now you know there's a place inside you where you can rest, a place that depends on no one, an emotional home built from the listening and care you've learned to give yourself. You are not just the traumas you've lived through. You are the one who chose to look at them with courage. You are not just what hurt. You are the one who decided to heal, even without guarantees. You are not just the past. You are the seed of the future. You are the story being rewritten with awareness, love, and presence. And every time you look at your pain with love, without denying it, without drowning in it, but with tenderness, you are planting healing. You are telling your body, now you can relax. You are telling your inner child, I'm here and I won't leave you alone again. You are telling your heart, we don't have to run anymore. Yes, the past hurts, but it also holds the map to your essence. It is fertile ground for transformation. What you've lived cannot be changed, but the meaning you give it to can. You can choose to see the past not as a prison, but as a school. Not as a sentence, but as a bridge. Not as an ending, but as an origin. And every time you step onto that ground with love, respect, and presence, you turn that land into a garden. You fertilize the future with awareness. You honor your story without letting it define you. And you finally understand that the past will always be part of you, but you no longer need to live in service of it. You can walk with it beside you, no longer as an enemy, but as a witness to your courage. If you've made it this far, take a deep breath. This reading has been a crossing too. And now, may you carry these words with you like seeds. The past is where you go to understand, not to live. The child you once were still longs to be cared for. Your tears do not weaken you, they set you free. The imperfect is the real, and the real is where love lives. Restarting is divine, even when it feels ordinary. You don't have to be everything. You only have to be yourself. And you are enough. You always were, you always will be. The past is not just a distant place on the timeline. It's a living territory within us. It lives in the memories we revisit, in the scars we avoid touching, in the silences we carry. No matter how much we try to bury it under layers of denial or distraction, it finds subtle ways to manifest in our fears, in the patterns we repeat, in the choices we make without knowing why. When something is unresolved, it does not die. It simply transforms into ghosts that haunt our actions, into voices that whisper when we are alone, into sensations that appear out of nowhere and make us feel as if we were back in that painful moment. The past lives in us until we decide to face it. But facing the past doesn't just mean reliving pain. It means understanding that every event has left traces in how we see the world and ourselves. It means recognizing that certain automatic reactions do not come from the present, but from old experiences that shaped our emotional responses. It's as if part of us were frozen in time, waiting to be freed. The problem is that running seems easier. Pretending we've forgotten gives us the illusion of control. But the cost of forced forgetting is high. It condemns us to repeat stories, to attract people and situations that mirror exactly what we've been trying to avoid. Life, in its own way, keeps putting us in front of the same scripts until we have the courage to rewrite the ending. Facing the past is an act of self-love. It's saying, I deserve to be free from the weight I carry. It's diving into our own shadows, not to stay there, but to recover the parts of us we left trapped in yesterday. It's giving pain a voice so it no longer needs to scream for attention through our unconscious choices. And when that happens, something changes. It's not that we forget what happened, but the wound stops bleeding. It becomes a scar, and scars don't hurt. They only remind us we survived. From there, we can walk lighter, because we're no longer trying to outrun something chasing us. The past will still live within us, but in a different way, not as a prison, but as part of the story that shaped us. It will stop being a weight and become wisdom. Because in the end, true freedom doesn't come from erasing who we were, but from integrating everything we've lived and choosing every day not to let it define who we are now. If you liked it, give it a thumbs up and subscribe to the channel.